Do you have millennials on your pastoral staff team? Because if you don't, you absolutely need to. Now, I realize that many of us in the ministry hacker community, you are lead pastors and millennials at the same time. But don't let that make you think that you understand what it means to be a staff pastor and a millennial at the same time. Because once you become that lead pastor, you kind of shift into lead pastor mode. And a lot of times you forget what it was like being a millennial on a pastoral staff team. And what I want to do today is I want to show you why it's absolutely necessary for you to have millennial staff pastors and what value and benefit they bring to the table for you that you're missing out on if for some reason you're resistant to bringing on this millennial generation onto your pastoral staff team. So let's get started. So the big question is this: how do pastors like us who remain focused on the mission of Jesus and serving our communities without being distracted by everything in the world around us, how do we increase our effectiveness while living a lifestyle that doesn't compromise our health, our families, or our personal relationships with Jesus? That's the question this podcast is going to answer. I'm Dr. Brandon Party Cooper, and welcome to the Ministry Hackers Podcast. Welcome, everyone, to this episode of the Ministry Hackers Podcast. I hope you're doing wonderful wherever you are, whatever's happening in your world, whatever's going on today as you're listening here. I just hope you're doing great and just making an impact, getting ready for the weekend, getting ready for Sunday services, getting ready to make a difference and impact people's lives. If this is your first time here at Ministry Hackers, somehow you found your way here to the podcast and this is your first time tuning in, my name is Dr. Brandon Party Cooper. I'm the founder here at Ministry Hackers. And the one goal we have is to help you, pastors and ministry leaders, to live your dream life in ministry, whatever that looks like. God has designed it, God's put it out there, and God's called you into ministry so that you can pastor a growing church, a growing ministry, a growing community, as well as have time with your family, go on vacations, have a hobby, do fun things, read books just for fun. He's designed all of that for you. And so we don't know what that looks like, but we do know how to help you find it. And that's what our goal here is at Ministry Hackers, is to help you discover your dream life in ministry. We're coming here to the end of the summer. It's late-ish July, about a month now. School will be starting. Kids will be going back to school. Football will be beginning. Leaves will start turning colors in a couple months. We are turning the corner of the summer. And if you're looking ahead and you're saying, hey, I want to begin living my dream life in ministry, I want to encourage you to go to ministryhackers.com/mydreamlife and discover how you and I can work together to help you find what your dream life in ministry is. We have a very simple process that we go through, very step by step. Anybody can do it, and you'll be surprised at how easily it is to find your dream life in ministry. And you begin to ask the question, why didn't I do this sooner? Why didn't I discover how to do this quicker? Because you had so much time on your hands when you get into your dream life in ministry, so many more things you get to do, so many ideas, imagination, innovation, and time with your family and your friends and your hobbies and the things you like to do. So again, go to ministryhackers.com/mydreamlife and discover how you and I can work together to discover what your dream life in ministry looks like. Okay, so I realize that most of our Ministry Hacker community are millennials. Most of you who are listening here, you are already millennials, and some of you are lead pastors and millennials. So I want to give you a little bit of a challenge today, because this topic, you're going to immediately think, oh, this doesn't apply to me because I'm a millennial. But the reality, though, is that if you are a lead pastor and a millennial, then you most likely have forgotten what it's like being a millennial staff pastor. And your staff pastors who are on your team, who are millennials, look at you and they see a millennial, but you act more like a lead pastor. And there are certain things that you've done or that you do and that you've learned to do as a lead pastor that possibly you now have forgotten how to maximize what your millennial staff pastors can do. And so that's what I want to encourage you and help you find how to maximize your millennial lead or your millennial staff pastors, and also how to get the most out of them, create an environment where they love to work, love to be, and honestly, they will probably stay with you longer because of it. So the first question is why do I need millennials on my pastoral staff team? And I'm going to give you just a few reasons. The first one is because we have a pastoral shortage across the country. Because of 2020, many older pastors have decided to retire. So many of them have already retired, or they're in the process of retiring over the next year or two. And so what's happening is because they're retiring, there's all these open lead pastor positions, and millennials, for the most part, are filling into some of those. And whatever Xers and boomers are still in ministry are filling in those lead pastor positions, which means that most of the staff positions are left open. And the only ones left to really fill them are millennials. But unfortunately, many of us have this negative experience with millennials, this negative perspective on millennials, and we're resistant to bringing them on board. And so what I want to first off say is, if you don't bring millennials onto your pastoral staff team, you will have to figure out how to go without pastors, because there just aren't enough to go around. Now, one of the frustrations maybe, or one of the hesitancies, is that many millennials who are now in their 20s, and many of them are in their mid to late 30s, they don't have a ton of experience, at least a ton of the experience that many lead pastors are looking for them to have. But here's the deal. You can either take a millennial pastoral staff member and train them up and develop them in the way that you want them to do ministry and how you want them to function on your church staff, or you can go without a pastoral staff member and figure out what volunteers you have to train and develop to do the job that a pastoral staff member who's a millennial would do. So for me, I would choose to just hire a millennial, train them up, empower them, and let them do their thing. So that's the first reason. We have a shortage. Millennials are the ones ready to come in, step in those places. And so you really just need to hire them and bring them on staff and develop them in whatever ways are necessary. That's the first reason why I think you need to have them on your staff. The second reason is because millennials, for the most part, are pretty idealistic. Now, this can be a challenge in the church, because in the church, we like traditions and we like things to be the way they always have been. And we like to just do incremental changes that nobody really feels or notice. And if somebody does create a fuss about it, we're just like, oh, it's okay, it's better this way. And it's such a small change, nobody really pays attention. We've all heard the story about moving the piano from one side of the stage to the other, and you just move it an inch a week. And over the next however many years, it's completely moved from one side to the other. Nobody really notices because it's so incremental. Well, the problem with that is, because we're moving at such incremental steps, the change really doesn't matter, because by the time the change happens, we should have changed 10 other things before that. And so millennials, when they come onto our staff, what happens is they come in with all this energy, all these ideas, all this innovation, and we kind of recoil because, like, whoa, we need to not change so many things at once. And I would agree to an extent. But I think what 2020 also showed us is that we are way behind on the change curve. There are a lot of things that we need to change. We need to change them faster. We need to change them more effectively. And we don't need to go to the next change. We need to go to 10 changes down the road. So a good example of this is worship. Worship is always the one that's a little bit of a challenge, and we always seem to be behind in worship. And so some of us are still playing worship songs from the late 90s. I know that may seem extreme, but some of us are. Well, to change does not mean to change to playing worship songs in the early 2000s. The change needs to happen. We need to update to songs that were at least older than or newer than 2015. So anything from 2015 to 2021, that should be the change we're making. We need to jump all the way across the early decade of the 2000s to at least 2015 and start doing worship change, or change the worship songs to those. That's just a kind of a crude example. So another example of this would be, many of us are operating with our budgets on an Excel sheet. Our administrator has been with us forever, and she does it on an Excel sheet. She takes the receipts in, she writes everything down on the Excel sheet, and processes that way. We don't need to move to the most updated Excel program. what we need to do is we need to jump to QuickBooks or Quicken or something else that is way more updated, way more innovative, and something that's going to keep up with the changing times. Because every time we make a change, there's another change right around the corner. And so what I mean is, and what I'm getting at is, with millennials, they understand the changes that need to be made. And it may make us uncomfortable as boomers and as Xers and even as older millennials who are lead pastors. It may make us uncomfortable because the amount of change that they bring and the speed at which they bring it can be a little unnerving and can be a little off-putting at times. But that doesn't mean that they're wrong. It just means that we, as the pastor, as the leader, need to temper that and pace it out in a way that you, the rest of your staff, and the congregation can handle it. The answer is not to stay away from hiring millennials. The answer is to lead them better. Most of you know I wrote a book, Millennial Leadership, and it's all about that. It's all about how to lead millennials effectively, how to lead them efficiently, and how to provide them with the boundaries they need to stay within what needs to be done, but also give them enough freedom to where they come up with a lot of great innovative ideas, awesome things that you and I would never think of because of the nature of how they approach life and how they approach ministry and how they approach their community and culture and everything else. And so those are the two main reasons I would say you need to bring millennials on board. Number one, because there's a shortage, and number two, because they just bring so much to the table that you're really missing out if you don't have millennials on your team helping you navigate forward. Now, the third reason, and this is probably the bigger reason that I think, at least in the context that we have here at Ministry Hackers, the thing that we talk about here is living your dream life in ministry. And the key to that, the key to living your dream life in ministry, if you as a lead pastor, if you are wanting to live your dream life in ministry, the key to that is having a highly productive staff. If you don't have a highly productive staff, then you will not live that dream life in ministry. It just isn't possible. The framework that we use for living your dream life in ministry, there are 5 steps. The third one is having a highly productive staff. And if you do all the other 4 and not the third one, if you don't do that one, then it will not work. And the reason I say that is because if you really truly want to live your dream life in ministry and have a highly productive staff, then you need to bring on millennials who can be highly productive. The main reason why they are highly productive and have the potential for higher productivity than anybody else on your staff is because they are native to this digital world that we live in. And everything that takes you and I time to learn and figure out and process through and implement, they do it intuitively. They do it without a lot of questions, without a lot of him-hawing around. They just do it because it's intuitive for them. And so the more you can integrate millennials onto your team, and the more you can train them up, develop them, empower them, and trust them to do the things that you need them to do, the sooner you will get to living that dream life of ministry. And the sooner the rest of your staff team will as well. And so I understand that there are a lot of hesitancies with hiring millennials. And some of you, to be fair, have had some really bad experiences with millennials. I get it. But most of the time, it's not the millennials. It's a misunderstanding of what millennials bring to the table and how they function. If you're a boomer and an Xer, and you are trying to lead a millennial the way you lead boomers and Xers, it will fail. It will not work. And you will have a bad experience. You have to adjust your leadership. And I believe as leaders, we are the ones that adjust. We have the higher capacity. We have the higher skill set. And quite honestly, if we're in the pastoral lead pastor position, if we are the leader, then we have the ability to adjust to the people that we lead. And so you need to lead your millennials in a way that's effective. You need to lead them in a way that works for them. And you need to lead them in a way that optimizes and maximizes their performance. Don't lead them the way you do boomers and Xers. It just won't work. And so I understand if you've had a bad experience, I get that. But at the same time, it's more about misconceptions of how they work than it is them not being willing to work. And so I unpack this a whole lot more again in my book, Millennial Leadership. I also unpack it a little bit more in a blog post if you want to check it out. It's Maximize Millennial Pastors, BrandonPartyCooper.com/Maximize Millennial Pastors. If you go there, I unpack it a whole lot more. I give you 5 ways to maximize their performance, and just goes deeper into this conversation, because I just think that what pastors need now, what lead pastors, what you and I need now, are high-performing pastoral staff members. And you will find them in the ranks of the millennial pastors. And honestly, what millennial pastors need more than anything right now, they need lead pastors who will invest in them, mentor them, show them the ropes, give them freedom, and allow them to make some mistakes. And the thing is if millennial pastors don't get that, then they will make a lot more mistakes than they need to. And quite honestly, a lot of them will leave the ministry because they don't have anybody showing them the ropes, anybody being patient enough to show them how to do it. And so millennials need lead pastors who will take that time, and lead pastors, you need them to give you the freedom to live your dream life in ministry. So again, you can go to BrandonPartyCooper.com/Maximize Millennial Pastors, and go deeper into this conversation. But I just think that whatever misconceptions you may have, whatever hesitancies you have about bringing on millennial pastoral staff members, you need to find a way to get to the other side of that. Because once you do, and you begin to bring on millennial pastoral staff members, and you begin to use them properly and train them up well, you will find they will be highly productive for you. They will do great things. They will have innovative ideas, and they will pave the way for you to live your dream life in ministry. I've seen it done. I've been a part of watching it happen. I've been a part of developing millennial leaders, millennial pastors for the last decade and a half. And I just believe the potential of millennial pastoral staff members is off the charts if we will tap into it and empower them to do great things. All right. So I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day, and I will see you in the next episode.